Hello, and welcome back to English Flowing, the podcast where we slow down, breathe, and let English flow naturally into your life. I'm Dom.
And I'm Larissa. And today we are so happy you chose to spend this time with us. Seriously, the fact that you pressed play today, that already means something.
It really does. Wherever you are right now, on the bus, making coffee, lying on your bed staring at the ceiling, we want you to feel like you've just sat down with two good friends.
Exactly. And today's topic is one that every single person on this planet knows in their bones. We are talking about what to do when you feel stuck in life, when life feels heavy, slow, or just frozen.
That feeling when you look at your life and think, this is not where I was supposed to be. Why am I not moving forward?
Oh yes, we are going in deep today, everyone. This is a B1 to B2 level episode, which means we use rich vocabulary, real idioms, and natural conversation, but we always keep it clear and accessible.
And before we dive in, we have a small but important favor to ask. If this podcast helps you, if it makes your English better or your heart a little lighter, please subscribe to English Flowing. Leave us a like and share this episode with one friend who might need to hear it today.
One friend, that's all. You could change someone's day just by sharing this. Okay, Dom, are we ready to talk about being stuck?
Let's do it.
So, Dom, let's start with something honest. What does it actually feel like to be stuck? Because I think people use that word a lot, but it can mean very different things to different people.
That's such a good place to start. For me, when I think about being stuck, and I have been there truly, it feels like running on a treadmill. You're working really hard, you're sweating, you're tired, but when you look up, you haven't moved an inch. You're in exactly the same place.
Oh, that image is so powerful, the treadmill, because it captures that exhausting feeling of effort without progress.
Exactly. And what makes it even harder is the guilt. You start to think, other people are moving forward, why am I not? And then the comparison trap opens up and you fall right into it.
The comparison trap, yes, that is a dangerous place. Social media makes it 10 times worse, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You open your phone and everyone seems to be getting promotions, traveling the world, falling in love, buying houses, and there you are, in your pajamas, on your third cup of coffee, wondering what went wrong.
But here's the thing. What people post online is a highlight reel, not a full documentary. You're comparing your behind the scenes to their greatest moments.
Wow, that is so true. I love that framing. A highlight reel versus a documentary. Because life, real life, has boring parts, confusing parts, slow parts, and that's completely normal.
It is. And I think that's the first important thing to say to anyone who feels stuck right now. You are not broken. You are just in a slow chapter.
I want to share something a bit personal here, Larissa. A few years ago, I went through a period, maybe 6 or 7 months, where I felt completely stuck. I had finished a project I'd worked on for 2 years, and when it was over, I just didn't know what came next.
How did that feel day to day?
Honestly, empty. Like there was this big blank space in front of me, and instead of feeling free, it felt terrifying. I would wake up in the morning and just stare at the wall. I didn't know which direction to walk in.
That emptiness after finishing something big, I think that's a very specific kind of stuck that people don't talk about enough. We celebrate the achievement and then forget that the what now can hit really hard.
It hits like a wall, actually. And the tricky part was that from the outside, people would say things like, "Oh, you must be so relieved. You must be so happy." And I had to smile and say yes, but inside I felt lost.
And did you reach out for help, or did you just push through it alone?
I pushed through it alone, which was definitely the wrong choice. I bottled everything up. I kept telling myself, pull yourself together, Dom, get on with it. And that just made the stuck feeling deeper and darker.
I think that response, just push through it, is very culturally common, but it's not always helpful. Sometimes pushing harder on a stuck door just jams it more. What helped you eventually?
Honestly, slowing down completely, stopping trying to force a solution, and just being still for a moment.
That's interesting because it feels counterintuitive, doesn't it? When we feel stuck, the instinct is to do more, to hustle harder, to make lists, to force movement. But sometimes the real answer is the opposite.
Completely counterintuitive. And I think there's real wisdom in that, philosophically speaking. There's actually a concept in Taoist philosophy called Wu Wei, which roughly translates to non-action or effortless action. The idea is that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop forcing things and let them unfold.
Oh, I love that idea. And I think it connects to something very real about how the human mind works. When we are in panic mode, when we are desperately searching for a solution, we actually shut down our creative thinking. The brain gets so flooded with stress hormones that it can't think clearly.
Right. It's like trying to find your keys while you're panicking. You search the same 3 places over and over again. But the moment you sit down, take a breath, and let go, there they are on the kitchen table.
That is so relatable. Okay, so I want to share my own experience here because I had a very different kind of stuck. Mine wasn't about not knowing what to do next. Mine was about being too afraid to do the thing I already knew I needed to do.
Oh, that's a really important distinction. What was the situation?
It was a job. I was in a position that was comfortable, good salary, nice colleagues, no drama, but it was draining the life out of me slowly. I didn't feel challenged. I felt like I was fading. And every day I would think, I should leave this job. But every day I would find a reason not to.
Fear of the unknown?
Fear of the unknown. Fear of giving up the safety. Fear of being wrong about what I thought I wanted.
I think what you're describing is one of the most common reasons people stay stuck, the comfort zone. And here's the paradox. The comfort zone is actually not that comfortable. It's just familiar.
Yes, that is exactly it. Familiar doesn't mean happy, it just means known. And the brain loves what is known because it feels safe, even when it's slowly suffocating you.
It's like staying in a warm but too small sweater. It's cozy in a way, but you can't breathe. You can't move properly. And you know deep down that you've outgrown it.
That's a beautiful metaphor. The too small sweater. Because outgrowing things is not a failure. It's actually a sign of growth. You're supposed to outgrow things.
Right. The caterpillar doesn't apologize for outgrowing the cocoon.
Oh, I love that line, Dom. Write that down, everyone. The caterpillar doesn't apologize for outgrowing the cocoon.
So what finally pushed you to make the change, Larissa? What broke the pattern?
It was a very small moment, actually. I was sitting in a meeting I had sat through dozens of times, and I suddenly looked at my own hands on the table and thought, these are the hands of someone who gave up on themselves. And something cracked open inside me.
Wow, that's powerful. A moment of clarity.
And I didn't quit the next day, to be clear. It took 3 more months of planning and courage building. But that moment was the beginning. The crack in the wall, you know?
The crack that lets the light in.
So let's talk practically now, because I know our listeners want both the emotional depth and the real takeaways. What are some actual things people can do when they feel stuck?
Great. So I think the very first thing, before any strategy, is to simply name what kind of stuck you are. Because stuck is a general word that covers very specific feelings. Are you stuck because you're exhausted and you need rest? That's one kind. Are you stuck because you're afraid? That's another. Are you stuck because you genuinely don't know what you want? Completely different again.
That's so wise. Naming the specific flavor of stuck gives you a very different path forward for each one.
Exactly. Because if you're exhausted, the solution is rest, not a new plan or a new goal. If you're afraid, the solution is courage building, small, brave steps. If you don't know what you want, the solution is exploration, not decision making.
And I would add one more category. Stuck because of grief or loss. People sometimes feel stuck after a relationship ends, or after losing someone, or even after a major life change. And the answer there is even simpler. It's time and gentleness.
Yes, being kind to yourself in those moments is not weakness. It is absolutely necessary. You cannot plant a garden in the middle of a storm.
Oh, that's a good one. You cannot plant a garden in the middle of a storm. So the first step is really just diagnose your stuck honestly, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Ask yourself, what is actually going on here?
Like a doctor, not a judge.
Exactly. A doctor looks at symptoms without blaming the patient.
So let's say someone has figured out what kind of stuck they're in. What's the next step?
I think the next step is to do something tiny. Not something big, not a grand transformation, not a complete life overhaul. Just one tiny thing. Because when we're stuck, our nervous system is often in a frozen state. And the way to unfreeze it is not with a big jolt of action. It's with small, gentle movements.
That makes so much sense from a neuroscience perspective, actually. When the body is in a freeze response, large demands create more fear and more freezing. But small, achievable actions create a sense of momentum, which builds confidence, which creates more action.
It's like a flywheel. Hard to get moving at first, but once it's spinning even a little, it builds its own momentum.
I love that. So for someone who is deeply stuck, the task is not change your life this week. The task is do one thing today that moves you 1 millimeter forward. Make that phone call. Write one sentence of that application. Walk around the block.
Or even simpler, make your bed, open the curtains, drink a glass of water. These sound ridiculous when we're talking about big life questions, but the physical act of completing something, anything, sends a signal to your brain that says, I can do things. I am capable.
That signal is everything. I remember reading once that motivation doesn't come before action, it comes after. We wait to feel motivated before we act, but actually it works the other way around. You act first, even a little, and then the motivation arrives.
That completely changed my perspective when I first heard it. We have it backwards. We sit and wait to feel ready, but readiness comes from doing, not from waiting.
There's another thing I want to bring up, and it connects to something a lot of our listeners might relate to. Sometimes we stay stuck not because we don't know what to do, and not because we're afraid, but because we are waiting for permission. We are waiting for someone to say, yes, it's okay. You can go. You are allowed.
Oh, this is so real. Waiting for permission. From parents, from partners, from society, from some imaginary authority figure that's going to validate our choices.
And the painful truth is that permission is never coming, because the only person who can give it to you is yourself. And that's terrifying and liberating at the same time.
It really is both of those things. I spent years, I'm not exaggerating, years waiting for my family to approve of a certain life choice. And when I finally stopped waiting and just made the decision for myself, it was one of the scariest and also most freeing moments of my life.
Did you feel guilty at first?
Incredibly guilty, and also incredibly alive, which is a very strange combination. But I learned that the guilt was just old programming. It was fear dressed up as morality. And slowly, the guilt faded, and the aliveness stayed.
That's a beautiful thing to say. Fear dressed up as morality. I think a lot of people will recognize that feeling.
And here's what I would say to anyone in that situation. The people who truly love you will adapt. They might not understand at first. They might be hurt or confused. But if they love you, they will find a way to accept your growth. And the ones who don't, well, that tells you something too.
That's a hard truth, delivered with a lot of grace, Larissa.
Let's talk about something that I think is really underestimated in conversations about being stuck, and that is the power of the environment. Because sometimes you are not stuck, your environment is stuck, and you're just marinating in it.
Yes. Oh, this is so important. The people around you, the physical space you're in, the daily routines, the media you consume, all of it creates an invisible field that either lifts you up or holds you down.
And when you've been in the same environment for a long time, it can be almost impossible to see it objectively, because it becomes the water you swim in. You don't notice the water.
That's why travel, even a short trip somewhere new, can shake something loose in a person. Suddenly, you see your own life from the outside, and things that seemed impossible back home seem obvious from a distance.
I had an experience like that. I went on a very simple weekend trip alone, just a small town not far from where I live. And just the act of being somewhere unfamiliar, with no routines, no obligations, no familiar faces, gave me so much mental clarity. I had realizations on that trip that I hadn't been able to reach in months of journaling and thinking.
Because you removed yourself from the field that was holding you in place, like pulling a magnet off the fridge.
Exactly. You can't always change your life dramatically overnight. But sometimes you can change your physical location for a weekend, or rearrange your room, or start a new morning routine. Something small that disrupts the pattern your brain is locked into.
Small disruptions create new neural pathways, and new pathways lead to new possibilities. It's not magic. It's quite literally how the brain works. All right, Larissa, I want to bring in one more philosophical angle before we head into our word tour, because I think it's important. There's a beautiful idea in Stoic philosophy, the ancient Greeks and Romans, about the concept of the obstacle is the way.
Oh, I know this one. Marcus Aurelius. The idea that the thing standing in your path is not blocking your path. It actually is the path.
Exactly. What I love about this idea is that it completely reframes the experience of being stuck. Instead of seeing it as a failure or a punishment or a problem, you start to see it as a doorway. The stuckness itself is pointing you somewhere.
It's like how pressure creates diamonds. The resistance is not the enemy of your growth. It might actually be the source of it.
And I think about this in the context of my own stuck period. At the time, it felt like the worst thing, this emptiness and confusion. But looking back, that period forced me to ask questions about myself that I had never asked before. It broke open a deeper understanding of who I am and what I actually value.
So the stuck period was, in some painful way, a gift.
It absolutely was. Not a gift I would have chosen, to be honest, but yes, a gift, because it stripped away all the distractions and forced me to sit with myself. And that sitting, as uncomfortable as it was exactly what I needed.
I think that's the hardest invitation life gives us, the invitation to sit still and listen. Not to music, not to podcasts, not to other people, but to yourself, to the quiet voice inside that actually knows.
And that voice will tell you the truth, if you give it enough quiet to speak.
Okay, Dom, I think this is a perfect moment to pause our deep conversation and take our listeners into something we love on this podcast, the word tour.
Yes, the word tour, everyone. This is your vocabulary boost for the day. We're going to take some of the most useful words, idioms, and phrasal verbs from the conversation we just had and really break them down for you.
This is where your English genuinely grows. So grab a notebook if you have one, or just listen closely, and repeat the examples out loud as you can. Speaking them aloud really helps your brain lock them in.
All right, let's go. The first expression we want to look at is one I used right at the beginning of our conversation, the comparison trap.
Yes, to fall into the comparison trap. This is a noun phrase that describes the dangerous habit of constantly comparing your life to other people's lives and feeling bad about yourself as a result.
The word trap is key here. A trap is something you fall into without realizing, and then you can't easily escape. So the comparison trap is a mental habit that catches you and keeps you feeling inferior, even when there's no logical reason to.
Let's look at 2 example sentences. First, every time she opened social media, she fell into the comparison trap and ended up feeling worse about herself.
And second, he was doing well in his career until the comparison trap made him feel like a failure just because his friend earned more money.
The comparison trap, a powerful expression for modern life.
Our second word for the word tour is a phrasal verb, to bottle something up. I used this when I was talking about my own stuck period. I said, I bottled everything up.
To bottle something up means to keep your feelings, emotions, or problems completely inside yourself, to not express them, not talk about them, and to hide them from others, and often from yourself.
The image is of putting something into a bottle and sealing the top. The feelings go inside, the cap goes on, and nothing gets out.
And of course, what happens when you put too much inside a bottle and seal it? Pressure builds up, and eventually it might explode, which is exactly what happens to people who bottle things up for too long.
2 example sentences. First, she never talked about her anxiety. She just bottled it up until she completely burned out.
And second, instead of bottling everything up, he decided to call a friend and talk honestly about how he was feeling. It made a huge difference.
To bottle up. Very important phrasal verb. Don't do it too much in real life.
Yes, don't bottle up your feelings. Let them breathe.
Third word on our tour, and this one is a beautiful idiom that Dom used. He said, the crack that lets the light in. Let's unpack that.
I used it to describe that small moment of clarity, that tiny break in the wall, that starts a bigger change. The expression comes from the famous Leonard Cohen lyric, and I should say the idea behind it is that nothing is perfectly whole, and the broken places, the cracks, are actually where something beautiful and illuminating can enter.
Even if you don't know the original source,
The meaning is very clear and very useful in English. When we say the crack that lets the light in, we mean a small opening, a small moment of pain or change that actually allows something good and new to come through.
So, in everyday English, you might use it when talking about a difficult moment that was actually the beginning of something better. The meaning is, sometimes the most painful or broken moments are where growth enters.
2 examples. First, losing her job was devastating, but it turned out to be the crack that let the light in. She started her own business 6 months later.
And second, he thought his injury was the end of his athletic career, but it became the crack that let the light in. He discovered coaching and found his true passion.
The crack that lets the light in. Write that one down. It's poetry and philosophy and practical wisdom all in one.
4th expression, and this one is a phrasal verb we used quite a bit, to push through. Larissa used it when she said, I pushed through the stuck period alone. But we also talked about why just pushing through isn't always the answer.
To push through means to continue doing something difficult, even when it's hard, uncomfortable, or painful. It implies using effort and willpower to get past an obstacle.
So in a positive context, pushing through is admirable. It means not giving up even when things are tough. But as we discussed today, sometimes pushing through a problem is not the right approach. Sometimes the wiser choice is to stop, reflect, and let things unfold more naturally.
So the expression is very common and has a slightly positive connotation in English. People admire those who push through. But today's conversation adds some nuance. Sometimes you need to push through, and sometimes you need to let go. Wisdom is knowing which situation you're in.
2 example sentences. First, even though she felt exhausted, she pushed through the last few kilometers and finished the race.
And second, he kept trying to push through the writer's block, but nothing was working until he took a break and let the ideas come naturally.
To push through, a very useful phrasal verb, and now you know both when to use it and when to question it.
5th expression, and it's one I used when talking about being too afraid to leave my job. I said I was in my comfort zone. This is probably a phrase many of our listeners have heard before, but let's really explore it deeply.
The comfort zone is a psychological state or situation where everything feels safe, familiar, and manageable, but also often flat, unchallenging, and limiting. It's the space in your life where you feel no anxiety, but also very little growth or excitement.
The important thing about the comfort zone is the word comfortable. It sounds positive, and in some ways it is. Rest and safety are important. But a life lived entirely in the comfort zone tends to feel hollow over time because human beings are wired for growth and challenge.
And there's a great related concept. Just beyond the comfort zone is the growth zone, the place where you feel a little scared, a little uncertain, but also alive and engaged. Too far beyond that is the panic zone, where the challenge is too overwhelming and you shut down. The sweet spot is just at the edge of comfort.
2 example sentences. First, she had been in her comfort zone for years, doing the same job in the same city, and while it was safe, she felt like she wasn't really living.
And second, public speaking was way outside his comfort zone, but every time he did it, he grew in confidence and felt more fully himself.
Stepping outside your comfort zone. It's scary, but it's where you come alive.
6th word on the word tour, and it's a single powerful adjective, counterintuitive. I used it when we talked about slowing down as a solution to being stuck. I said it felt counterintuitive.
Counterintuitive. Let's break it down. Counter means against. Intuitive means what your instincts naturally tell you to do. So something that is counterintuitive is something that is the opposite of what seems logical or natural at first.
It's a brilliant word because it captures that moment of, wait, that can't be right. But actually, it is. Many of the most powerful ideas in life are counterintuitive.
For example, resting more can make you more productive. Listening more can make you more persuasive. Accepting a problem can help you solve it faster. All of these are counterintuitive. They go against what your gut tells you.
2 example sentences. First, it seems counterintuitive, but taking a nap during the workday actually made him more focused and effective in the afternoon.
And second, the doctor's advice was counterintuitive. Instead of exercising more, she told her patient to rest completely for 2 weeks, and it actually healed the injury faster.
Counterintuitive,
A very sophisticated, very useful word for B2 level and beyond. Use it whenever something surprises you by being the opposite of what you expected.
Okay, our seventh and final expression for today's word tour, and it might be the most poetic of all. Dom used the beautiful phrase to marinate in something. He said, "Sometimes you are not stuck. Your environment is stuck, and you're just marinating in it."
Ah, yes. To marinade in the cooking world means to soak food in a liquid, like sauce or spices, so that the flavors absorb deeply into it over time. When we use it metaphorically in English, we say someone is marinating in a situation or feeling to describe how they are being slowly and deeply influenced by it, often without realizing.
It's a wonderful metaphor because marinating takes time. It's not instant, and the food doesn't choose to be marinated, it just sits in it. So when a person is marinating in a negative environment, they're absorbing all of that negativity slowly, passively, without even noticing.
But you can also marinate in positive things: inspiration, love, creativity, good conversations. The word can go either way.
2 example sentences. First, she had been marinating in negativity for so long, with pessimistic friends and a toxic work culture, that she had forgotten how optimistic she naturally was.
And second, after spending a month traveling in that creative city, he came back home completely transformed. He had been marinating in inspiration, and it showed in everything he made.
To marinate in something. What a rich, sensory, beautiful way to describe the invisible influence of your surroundings. I love it.
Me too. Okay, that was our word tour for today. 7 incredible expressions. The comparison trap, to bottle up, the crack that lets the light in, to push through, comfort zone, counterintuitive, and to marinate in something.
And now, as we come into the final part of today's episode, I want to sit with something for just a moment before we say goodbye.
Please, yes.
We talked about so much today. The treadmill feeling, the comparison trap, the too small sweater, fear dressed up as morality, the crack that lets the light in, the obstacle being the way.
And underneath all of those ideas, there's a single truth that I keep coming back to. Being stuck is not a destination. It is a passage.
A passage. I love that word for it, because a passage goes somewhere. It's not a room you live in. It's a corridor you walk through.
And some corridors are long, some are dark, some feel like they have no end, but they do have an end, every single one.
And here's the thing I want to leave with our listeners today. If you are in that corridor right now, if you are in your stuck season, please hear this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not failing.
You are just in the middle of something. And the middle is the most disorienting place to be, because you can't see where you started anymore, and you can't yet see where you're going. But you are moving, even when it doesn't feel like it.
Even a small heartbeat is proof of life. Even a tiny step forward counts as movement. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply keep going.
Keep going, everyone.
Larissa, I think this episode has been one of my favorites we've done.
Mine too, honestly. It touched something real.
And that's the goal, right? For every episode of English Flowing. Not just to improve your English, but to improve your day. To give you something that makes you feel a little less alone, a little more understood, and a little more capable of whatever is ahead of you.
Because language learning is not separate from life, it is part of life. Every new word you learn, every new idea you understand in English, it expands the way you think. It gives you more tools to understand yourself and the world around you.
You are not just learning a language. You are growing as a person, and we are so honored to be a small part of that journey.
And speaking of journeys, we want to hear about yours. So here is our comment question for today, and we want you to actually take a moment and think about it before you write your answer.
The question is this. Think about a time in your life when you felt completely stuck. What was the situation? And most importantly, what was the small thing, the tiny crack that eventually started to let the light in?
Share your story in the comments. We read every single one. And your story might be exactly what another listener needs to hear today.
Because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do for each other is simply say, "Me too. I've been there. And it got better."
it got better.
Before we go, one more gentle reminder. If you haven't subscribed to English Flowing yet, please do it right now. It takes 2 seconds, and it means the world to us and to the growth of this community.
Like this episode if it helped you. Share it with someone who might need it. And leave that comment. Tell us your story.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. You showed up for your English, and you showed up for yourself, and that matters.
Take care of yourselves out there. Be patient with yourselves. Be kind to yourselves. You are doing better than you think.
From Dom
And Larissa.
This is English Flowing. Until next time, keep your heart open, keep your mind curious.
And keep the English flowing.
See you soon.
Feel free to watch more videos here.